Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Polo. Hope you guys are doing well. Now, before we get started with this video, I have a disclaimer. If you like my content, if you've seen my channel, you feel like you know me, things of that nature, and we have a connection based off of my love for certain things that you may also have in common with me, but you have an issue with people in terms of their politics, meaning that you are the type of person that if somebody's politics doesn't align with your politics, you cancel that person out, then this may not be the video for you. I'm the type of person, I love to listen to people that I disagree with, okay, if they're intelligent, all right, because I like to have my thoughts challenged. I do not like echo chambers, okay, and I didn't know that is in 2025 a somewhat unique quality in people. I didn't know that. I thought everybody had that. I thought everybody does that. You listen to, you have your perspective on what you think, and then you have other people saying something else. And I like to listen to two people smarter than me argue about the topic and make up my decision on who's telling the truth and which way I should go, even if I was already hard on one side, left or right. That's the way my brain works. Okay. Now, I remember during the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I immediately noticed that it was 3 against 1, right? And I made a post about it on my community tab, now called the YouTube post. I think they changed the name. And I got killed for it. Oh, you're MAGA, you're a Trump supporter, you're full on this and all of that. And I was like, no, I'm just telling the truth of what I see. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. Okay. I consider myself to be an independent. The Democratic Party dismantled the black family and moved the black man out of the house systematically. They played a hand in that and the mass incarceration of black men. So I've never been a big fan of the Democratic Party. The Republican Party, I don't see a lot of representation of people like myself, of just black men that are not out there shucking and jiving and dancing and acting crazy, which is not my personality, but when I see who the Republicans lift up and the type of black men that they put on their party, I got to say that that's not a representation of me either. And I've never really seen a space for myself in the Republican Party. So I've always considered myself to be an independent, and I just call it like I see it. I do not like echo chambers. I do not like being told what I want to hear. I want to know the truth most of the time, pretty much every time, so, but I made a post and said that, it's 3 against 1, they're fact checking Trump. They're giving her easy questions, and I saw it right away, and people thought I was biased. I'm MAGA, I'm all of this crazy stuff. And I'm like, no, I like truth versus a lie. I like, reality versus fiction. So, I got killed for it. There were some people who saw what I saw as well, but I realized that my audience is slightly different than the way that I think, which is crazy. So I learned something about human nature, that taught me something there, that a lot of people have issues dealing with the truth. Okay. So I didn't grow up watching politics. I'm not an expert in politics by any means. I'm learning as I go. When I'm not doing reactions, to be honest with you, this is what I'm watching typically. I'm watching a lot of political content because I find it fascinating. And I'm doing this video to see if this is what you guys want to see on this channel. If you don't want to see this on this channel, let me know in the comments section. Dislike the video, do all that. If you want to see more of it, like the video, leave a comment. It lets me know, because then I can also bring you guys along with me as I'm watching some of this stuff. So this particular title caught my attention. Now I'm gonna give you guys a little, like I said, I don't know if I said this already. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. All right. I just like truth, versus, lies. And I'm just trying to figure out who's lying and who's telling the truth. That's where I stand on it. I lean more towards the right in 2025, like more center, not like one of them crazy people. But definitely I lean more conservative in my views as of 2025. But I am never married to a specific thing because that's what I chose. You know, if I find, you know, a better option, then I always choose the option that I think is best. But the video that I'm reacting to, I'm going to stop rambling. It's called Breaking News. John Kennedy breaks down federal spending line by line in epic defense of Elon Musk. All right. So I was going to watch this anyway. Let's go ahead and get into this. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go.
Mr. President.
Senator from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield 30 minutes of my post-cloture debate time on the vote nomination to Senator Merkley and 30 minutes of my post-cloture debate time on the vote nomination to Senator Schumer.
The senator has that right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
The senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have 8 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. With me today is one of my colleagues from my Senate office, Mr. James Shea. He is one of my right-hand people and does great work, and I'm honored that he could join me today.
You can tell this guy's a great public speaker.
Gosh, I don't know where to begin. I've been in the Senate for 8 years. In dog years, that's 56 years.
Wow.
And it feels like 56 years. I've learned a lot, met a lot of interesting people. You know, before I got here, everybody told me about the Washington bubble. And I said, you know, how serious could they be? Well, it's true. There is a Washington bubble. This place is different. It's in its own way, sometimes disappointing, sometimes refreshing. It is deeply weird.
That's a word you don't hear in this setting pretty often. Weird. All right. And the Washington bubble that he's talking about, I could never be in politics or in show business because I don't like fake people and I don't like being fake. You know, I know how to be fake, but I would rather not play that game. You know what I mean? So it's, you know, why someone would want to go into politics blows my mind, but it's a necessary evil, I guess, for us to function.
Times refreshing. It is deeply weird. For one thing, common sense is illegal in Washington. It's illegal. For another thing, I've discovered that this is a town of very frustrated ex-class presidents. And there's a Washington way of doing things. And when things aren't done that way, when somebody challenges the status quo, many, not all, but many of these frustrated ex-class presidents in Washington, on the Hill and otherwise, they get excited, not in a good way.
So they can't be told no. These are adult leaders. I mean, like adult that are leaders that we've appointed can't be told no. How do you get to that position with that type of mindset? Blows my mind.
They can't get their mind around doing anything other than the Washington way. Some of them, particularly in the media, they go almost catatonic, or the exact opposite. They foam at the mouth, and they really get upset. They can make a Valium nervous. It's like the world, we're not doing things the way we've always done them, and the world's going to spin off its axis. I want to try to put in perspective what many of my Democratic friends have been talking about today. They're very, very, very upset at President Trump. And they're very, very, very upset at Elon Musk. President Trump ran for president on a number of issues. One of the issues he ran on, he said it almost every day. He said, if you elect me president, I'm going to go through the entire budget and review all the spending, line by line. If I heard him say that once, I heard him say it 1,000 times. And that's what he's been doing.
What I find amazing is that it took Donald Trump to do this. Why wouldn't this be like a standard thing that, I mean, the citizens of America, the way we are taxed and make sure that we pay our taxes with a fine-tooth comb, but that same system, those same checks and balances don't apply to politics, to the government. Mind-boggling, all right? And it took someone who doesn't care about their money, who's not a politician, to actually follow through with this, all right? Barack Obama ran on, what did he run on, change? I forget what he ran on, but nothing changed except that he released a lot of laws for the LGBTQ. That's about it. You know, I voted for him his first term. I didn't vote the second term, I don't believe, at all, because, and prior to that, I really wasn't into politics at all, or just voting. But when I saw that he didn't even use his celebrity, he didn't use anything in terms of his fame, him being the president, to make a difference in the communities that needed it. I'm not saying that he should have been the black president, but I've seen Donald Trump do more for black people than Barack Obama, who's black. Okay, which is crazy. So, you know, after his first term, I was pretty much done then. Very good talker, very classy gentleman, very charismatic, very convincing. But, you know, I saw right through that.
He went out and appointed, through an executive order, Elon Musk, who some people like him, some don't, but he's not a dummy. He's a very successful business person. He's got a top secret security clearance.
So is Kanye West, but I don't want him for president.
President Trump issued an executive order, and he turned to Mr. Musk, and he said, Mr. Musk, I want you to do for me what I said I was going to do in the election. I want you to go through all the spending, line by line. Now, let me ask you something, Mr. President. How are you going to review the spending without reviewing the spending? How are you going to audit the spending by an agency without auditing the agency?
That's logic.
That's what I mean when I say common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C. That's what Mr. Musk is doing. He's put together a crackerjack team, and they're going through everybody's spending line by line, item by item.
He said a crackerjack team, a bunch of young boys. Now, I feel a way about it. On one hand, these are entities outside of the government, so they may not have any sort of narrative besides what Elon implements with them. But on the other hand, when they're really young, these are, you know, I think most of them are under like 24, these kids that he has doing it. They're easy to control, and they probably idolize Elon Musk and will do whatever he tells them to do, you know. And I'm not a big fan of echo chambers. So that's the red flag that I see in him having these young group of supposedly very smart. I haven't researched them yet. Maybe I'll do a couple of videos on it. You guys let me know in the comments section, you know, if you want me to start reviewing that type of stuff. But yeah, that's the red flag that I see in Elon Musk, who he picked, was that they haven't been, I don't know if they've been audited, or what's the terminology I'm looking for, if they've been vetted. That's the red flag. But action is taking place. At least something's being done versus something being promised every new president and nothing's done. Okay, so that is, I don't know. Where do you weigh that? You guys weigh in. Let me know.
And my Democratic colleagues are very, very, very upset. And they've been very eloquent. They've talked about the process, and President Trump's executive order supposedly violates the Constitution. And they've accused Mr. Musk of having conflicts of interest. And I've heard people say he's sitting over there with a notepad, copying down everybody's Social Security number, and he's going to go use it to make
one of the richest men in the world, and that's what he's going to do. I mean, but what do powerful men want? What do powerful men want? More power.
Copying down everybody's Social Security number, and he's going to go use it to make money. I mean, people in this town, not just my Democratic colleagues, they're really upset. They've never said anybody question their spending. But that's what Mr. Musk is doing.
Did you hear what he just said? They've never had anyone question their spending.
Not just my Democratic colleagues, they're really upset. They've never said anybody question their spending. But that's what Mr. Musk is doing. But you know what? I've listened. This has been going on for a week. People have been screaming like they're part of a prison riot. Oh, my God, look at what Musk is doing. He's looking at the spending. And I've listened to people talk about the process and debate whether it's constitutional and discuss how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. But you know what? I haven't heard one single person who's upset with President Trump or Mr. Musk talk about.
So there's a bunch of
what he's found.
Oh.
They don't want to talk about.
Yeah. Facts. I watch the news from both ends. You know, I try to, you know, I'm not married to any one news outlet, but there isn't a lot of talk about what he's found. It's more so talking about the people that's doing the research, what is that? Okay. Like, you just want to skip past that's what's more shocking than anything. Like,
who's upset with President Trump or Mr. Musk talk about what he's found.
Right.
They don't want to talk about the spending porn, the waste of taxpayer money that he's found. I mean, that's the point of all this. I tell you who is interested. The American people.
Right.
The people in America who get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to educate their kids and try to do the right thing by their kids and try to save a little money for retirement, and have had to live through 20% inflation under President Biden. This
is basic common sense stuff from a I didn't even graduate high school, and I saw this. It blows my mind, you know, that we got this far. You know, you just think that people in elite positions have elite level of thinking and problem solving skills or whatever, where it's not the case. It's a crazy case what we have in Congress and just in politics in general.
They understand what Musk is doing. They understand spending porn and wasting taxpayer money. Now, Mr. Musk started with the USAID. That handles a lot of foreign aid for America. American people are very generous. In our country, you know, when you're homeless, we'll house you. When you're hungry, we'll feed you. In our country, when you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor. And we send a lot of money overseas to help our world's neighbors. And the USAID is in charge, in large part, of that. But I'll tell you what Mr. Musk discovered. I find it fascinating. He discovered
before he even begins, I bet they're spending enough money, all right, to where every American really could have health care. All right. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't be expensive. It wouldn't be an arm and a leg to get. You know, that's probably when all the money is added up, I bet it won't even be close.
That the American taxpayers are giving money to Afghanistan. He found that we are giving money to Yemen. He found that we are giving money to Syria. I didn't know that. Some of our foreign aid is going to Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria. He found that the USAID has 10,000 people. 10,000 people, employees. And every year they give away $40 billion. Wow. Mr. Musk also found, and I'm not saying that all of this money is wasteful. I'm not. Some of this money, I'm sure, does some good. That's why Secretary Rubio is going to revamp the department and separate the good from the bad. But this is the kind of stuff Mr. Musk found. He found that the USAID gave money to support electric vehicles in Vietnam. Our money, taxpayer money. He found that USAID gave money to a transgender clinic in India. I didn't know that. I bet you the American people didn't know that.
This is going to be an interesting 4 years, a scary 4 years, because this money trail is going to lead to a lot of, if this continues, it's going to lead to a lot of really powerful things getting exposed, a lot of entities getting flipped, turned on its head. But, you know, there's going to be a reaction. We just don't know what that reaction will be. It does need to stop, you know, but, you know, while this is, you know, interesting and exciting and all this different stuff, if you live in America, in my opinion, it's a very interesting time. It's very, I'll leave it at that.
He found that the USAID gave $1.5 million to a Serbian LGBTQ group called Grupa Izladaji. I probably mispronounced that. My apologies. Anyway, they got $1.5 million to, quote, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. What else did Mr. Musk found that my colleagues don't want to talk about? Well, he reviewed a study and then went and checked it. The study was done by the Middle East Forum. They found that USAID spent $164 million to support radical organizations around the world. We're not talking Cub Scout troops here. We're talking about radical organizations around the world. They gave $122 million of that to groups aligned with foreign terrorist organizations.
I mean, if you're processing what they're saying, I mean, it sounds like, you know, the government has been compromised for the most part. You know what I mean? If this money, this is really, really crazy stuff here.
Our taxpayer money.
I mean, we always kind of knew it. You know, those of you who follow politics, we always knew the government was corrupt, but not at what level? Not at this level. At least me. Okay, I'll speak for myself. Maybe some of you out there have been following this for years, and you know a lot, and you can probably educate me in the comments below. But yeah, this is crazy, and we're only 11 minutes and 43 seconds in.
According to this report in Mr. Musk, the USAID has given millions of dollars to, quote, organizations in Gaza controlled by Hamas. Why aren't my colleagues talking about that? Recipients of the money, they found, have, quote, called for their lands to be cleansed from the impurity of Jews. That's who we're giving foreign aid to. What else? I'm not going to spend my whole time talking about this, but nobody else is talking about it. They're just talking about the process. And
I noticed that too. I peeped that. I'm like, nobody but the right's talking about it. But on the left, they're not talking about that. When you click on that side of the news spectrum, those conversations are not being had.
Nobody else is talking about it. They're just talking about the process. And Mr. Musk, and he's a mean guy, and he shouldn't be looking at our spending. Well, he is. And I kind of find what he's found out interesting. He found that we gave $2 million, USAID did, for sex changes in Guatemala. He found that we gave $20 million to produce a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. He found that we gave $4.5 million of taxpayer money to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. He found that we gave $10 million, USAID did.
On and off subject, here's what I noticed. And nobody on YouTube I've seen really talking about this. But, I have a son. And my son plays video games, things of that nature. When he's on his tablet, he came up to me the other day. He's like, Dad, I was playing on my tablet and there's ads on it. And I was like, yeah, sometimes you get ads. And he was like, well, on the ads, there was 2 men kissing. And then on another ad, there's 2 women kissing. All right. And he said I'm constantly seeing these ads on my tablet. You also see it in Fortnite. You see it on Call of Duty, a lot of different games. They're pushing a lot of this. And I'm thinking like, all right, when I grew up gaming was just about having fun. There wasn't any sexual flags or propaganda being placed in video games. All right. And I'm like, why is there such a big push? And why is it in everything now where you have to try to block your kids from it? Because my son doesn't care about sex at his particular age. He doesn't know, he knows about it, but he doesn't care. All right. But he felt the need to tell me about it. And I didn't know. So I had to do some checking. I had already been going through his tablet and trying to keep things away from him that I don't think he needs to be focusing on. But I noticed that no one on the internet is talking about this. All right. And it's like hard as hell to block that type of stuff from all the stuff that they have for kids. And, not that I have an issue with people's preferences. I just don't like people's preferences being pushed on my kid, and watching this, and I see how much money is being spent to send this type of information to different places. It makes a little bit sense. There's a bigger narrative, a bigger push, and I don't know the reason for it. Maybe you guys can help me with that, but that's one thing that I noticed. Just to go off subject for a little bit here, we'll continue.
Of meals to an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group called the Nusra Front. Mr. Musk found that we gave $7.9 million of taxpayer money to a project that would teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gendered language. The USAID took $8 million and gave it to a bunch of journalists in Sri Lanka to teach them how to avoid binary gendered language. I don't know what the hell binary gendered language is. I think I do. You think most taxpayers would support that? Why aren't we talking about that?
Listen, we are talking about gas and groceries, and this is where the money's going. All right. This should be on the headline of everything. This should be the number one topic if people are following politics and for the people who have an issue with Donald Trump and things of that nature. I'm not saying that the guy's a saint or anything like that. All I care about is, are you going to do what you said you're going to do? And that's for any person that's running for president, not necessarily Trump. That goes for Biden. are you going to do what you said you're going to do? And we haven't been seeing that. This is the first time we're seeing a president do exactly what he said he's going to do. And the road that he took to get there, the things that he had to go through to be there. I think I even watched an old video of him saying he didn't want to run for president. You know, they wanted him to run like in the 90s. OK, and he just wasn't interested. He said, if they really need me, I'll run. But it's not something that I'm really interested in doing. And it's something that there's been a campaign for him to do for much of his career, which I didn't know, just doing a little bit of research on that. So this is kind of one of the, we're watching like history, you know, that will forever be mentioned, like this whole process from Donald Trump and the changes. We don't know where it's going to lead us to. Hopefully somewhere where we can live a better lifestyle for those of you who are U.S. citizens and we're not being pit against each other and all these different, I mean, it used to be a race thing. Now it's a left-right thing, a man-woman thing, all these different ways that we are being separated. And yeah, I guess I'm going on a tangent there, but I'm going to let this guy continue here.
The USAID gave $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. They gave $1.5 million to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem.
Not health care, not dental care, not food, not, you know, nothing like that. LGBTQ. Like, is anybody, am I crazy? You know?
They gave $1.5 million for, quote, art for inclusion of people with disabilities in Belarus. Another $3.9 million for LGBT causes in Macedonia. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion education in Nepal. I could go all night. And many of my colleagues are upset. They're really mad at Mr. Musk. Hell, I think we ought to give him a medal. All he's doing is what President Trump said he was going to do. President Trump.
He said we ought to give him a medal. I second that. I second that. I second that. Okay. I like this guy.
All he's doing is what President Trump said he was going to do. President Trump said he's going to audit the spending. So Trump goes and hires Musk, again with the top secret security clearance. Nobody can quibble
Crackpot
with his intelligence.
Is that what he used? The word he used?
You know, the guy's as smart as Einstein's cousin. He's a very successful businessman. Some say he's the richest guy in the world.
That's what the marketing
says. And he's
says.
doing the auditing. And, man, he's finding a lot of stuff. I call it spending porn.
It's a great term.
Now, I'm not saying everything that USAID does is wasted.
Now, that's the dangerous part. You know, if you just get rid of it, you know, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of good that they're doing. And he mentioned this earlier. So that's the thing. You know, you don't want Trump to be like he was on the show, like you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. You know, start just getting rid of everything, and then you know, stray bullets start hitting people that it's not supposed to hit. You know, I'm using that in a metaphorical term. You know what I mean? But that's the scary part. You don't want him to go off the rails and just start dismantling things where where it's needed to a degree. But we all agree that something's wrong.
But I'm saying a lot of it is. A hell of a lot of it is. And we ought to be on the floor of this United States Senate thanking Mr. Musk. And we ought to be asking him to go through every agency.
Yes.
And look at everybody's budget. Everybody's budget. That's what the American people want. They don't want to talk about process.
And the sad thing is, we had to have a foreigner do it for us. You know, you let that sink in. We needed a foreign entity to come in and do this for us.
They don't want to continue with the Washington way. They want to save some money. Now, let me tell you what's really going on here, too, Mr. President. For 4 years under President Biden, and for, 8 years under President Obama, and I respect both of them. I don't hate anybody. I don't. When I say my prayers at night, one of the things I ask God, God, don't let me hate, because it's hard in Washington. Don't let me.
You don't want hate in your heart. I didn't mean to interrupt him right in the middle of a sentence, but it's something, I don't hate anyone. Okay. Like I may disagree with, your take on certain things. I may disagree with your point of view, your values or whatever, but there is no hate. I think that hate is one of those things that helps you get closer to cancer. All right. You don't carry that. And that's too close to love as well. So like, even if you got hatred towards someone, that's still an emotion. That's wasted energy that you have directed towards someone or something that's not even thinking about you. Okay. So it's a wasted effort. You just want to always kind of step back and look at the situation for what it is. So I like where he's going with this, because I'm the same way.
Mr. President, for 4 years under President Biden, and for 8 years under President Obama, and I respect both of them. I don't hate anybody. I don't. When I say my prayers at night, one of the things
I've never liked Joe Biden.
Ask God, God, don't let me hate, because it's hard in Washington. Don't let me hate. I have all the respect in the world for President Biden and President Obama. Tough job.
What?
But between them, they spent 12 years in Washington, and presidents set the tone. They control the questions that are asked. And here's the question that President Obama and President Biden asked for 8 years. For 12 years. I heard it every single day. Who needs to pay more in taxes? Is it you? Is it you? Who needs to pay more in taxes? We need more money. Who needs to pony up more? That was the issue.
See where he's going.
But that's not the issue today. We have a new president. You know what the issue is today? What the hell happened to all the money? What the hell happened to all the money?
The real question.
And that's what Mr. Musk is finding out. That's all this is about. And I'm just shocked that my colleagues have decided that this is a hill they're going to die on. How can you look the American people in the eye?
Because many of them are the ones signing their signature on a lot of these policies.
And support this kind of waste. Support this kind of spending porn. I mean, the election to me made at least one thing clear, that the American people are sick and tired of people in Washington denying reality. The last administration tried to convince us that we were living in a crime-free world where inflation was temporary and the border was secure. And the American people didn't buy it. You know why? Because it wasn't true.
Because of YouTube journalism. All right. If we were still in the era of just watching TV, and being fed CNN and all these networks that are paid for to say a certain thing instead of real journalism. But because of a lot of YouTubers who go out there, with a GoPro camera and these independent journalists do an amazing job, the media had to step their game up because a lot of their lies are getting exposed. That is the reason why. Otherwise, we would still be heading in that same path. And
the administration, our last administration, tried to argue that Bidenomics was making our lives better. But the American people knew differently.
Right. Eggs cost $11.
They understood Bidenomics to mean I get to spend more to live worse. Ooh. And they voted. Now, I mean, the American people were poorer under the last administration, but they didn't become stupid. They could see that the government was creating a problem, not trying to fix it.
I think this is a case of tribalism. You get married to a party, you don't question that party. You vote that way for your entire life. Your parents, your grandparents, or whoever voted that way. And I think this is just me throwing it out there. Okay, I'm not an expert on anything. All right, but I think that's what it was. People are voting politics like they root for the 49ers or the Cowboys or whatever your team is. And I think that was a case of why we consistently kept falling into the same thing, because they were not being held accountable for their actions, not living up to the things that they're promised. And, once the shit starts hitting the fan and people are paying more in groceries, spending more on gas, you can't really hide much else after that, paying more in taxes. Okay.
And they noticed the national debt too. Put up that first chart for me. You know what our national debt is, Mr. President? $36 trillion. Not million, not billion. $36 trillion. It takes my breath away. Highest it's ever been, over 100% of our gross domestic product.
I like the visual here.
Our debt's growing faster than our economy. And we toss around.
The average debt per citizen, $102,000. Okay, wow.
Been over 100% of our gross domestic product. Our debt's growing faster than our economy. And we toss around these numbers, 1 trillion, 1 billion, 1 million, 1 squillion, like it's nothing. I want to try to put this in context. If I started counting right now, and I counted one numeral, if you will, per second.
You'd be dead.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I kept counting all day and all night. I didn't sleep. I counted between bites of oatmeal at breakfast. I just counted continually. One numeral per second. It would take me 32 years to count to 1 billion.
1 billion.
32 years to count to 1 billion. It would be 2057. I'd be dead as Woodrow Wilson.
Wow.
I wouldn't live that long. And that's just $1 billion. Our debt's $36 trillion. You know how long it would take me to count to 1 trillion?
You can't.
31,000 years if I counted one numeral per second. About as old as Chuck Grassley. 31,000 years. It would take me 1 million years to count to 36 trillion. Those are the kind of numbers we're talking about. And the American people understand it. Since 2019, America's population has grown 2%. We're not having babies. 2%. And that's after massive immigration. You know how much our budget has grown? 55%. 55%.
As they say, that math ain't mathing.
Yeah, we've had inflation. But we haven't had 55% worth of inflation. That's how we got to this $36 trillion in debt. Put up the next chart for me. Now, some of this money we had to spend during the pandemic. And it was a bipartisan effort during the pandemic. Republicans voted for it, and Democrats voted for it because we had no choice. I was there. I saw it from the inside. We came this close to losing the American economy. And you know who helped a lot, doesn't get enough credit? Jay Powell at the Federal Reserve. I watched it. The whole world wanted to go into a cave and retreat. Back in the Great Recession, I remember all the other countries in the world who looked to us. They may hate us, but they know we're the greatest country in all of human history. They look to America. And you know what? Back in the Great Recession, all the other countries wanted they wanted treasuries, treasury notes, treasury bonds. Not this time. They were so scared. They didn't want treasuries. They wanted dollars, cash dollars. So Jay Powell, thank the Lord, he goes over to the Federal Reserve. He opens what's called a currency swap line, and he told every country, you want dollars? I'll trade your dollars for your currency. And everything calmed down. He doesn't get any credit for that. but it was a gutsy thing to do.
Unsung hero.
But on top of that, to save the American economy, that wasn't helping the American economy. We had to keep the economy going. We spent a lot of money. But then COVID ended. And what we should have done was go back to pre-COVID spending. But we didn't do that. President Biden, after the shutdowns and the coronavirus, the pandemic was over, passed the American Rescue Plan. COVID was over. He spent $1.9 trillion. Never let a good crisis go to waste. I didn't vote for it. Then he came back and passed what he called an infrastructure bill. It was really just the Green New Deal. I know what's in that bill. That was another $1.2 trillion. And then he passed the Inflation Reduction Act. I didn't vote for it. But that was another $1.0 trillion. And then he passed the CHIPS Act. This is really special. He said, big tech, the semiconductor companies need our money. They need taxpayer money. They're not making enough money. And he gave them money. He didn't give hardware stores money.
He gave the same people money that's been censoring the American people for quite some time. Like Elon, if you're not aware, Mark Zuckerberg admitted that, that they were censoring any positive information or negative information about the vaccine. YouTube as well. You get your channel tucking, and this was also the Biden administration. This is the biggest issue that people don't talk about enough, was how that administration was censoring speech, controlling the way you talk, things of that nature. If you can control the way people talk, you can control the way they think. OK, and I don't know why that didn't raise a lot of red flags then. Once this information came out that a president was paying Zuckerberg to censor a lot of information that would have helped a lot of people. OK, and again, this is Joe Biden. I didn't understand why the American public liked him in the first place. I didn't even follow politics, but I knew enough about him, not just his role in the crime bill, but even part of that, I'd heard about his reputation. And I just thought the guy was, with all due not respect, I thought the guy was an idiot.
Taxpayer money. They're not making enough money. And he gave them money. He didn't give hardware stores money. President Biden didn't give the healthcare industry money. He said, I want to help big tech. And boy, they sucked it up like a Hoover Deluxe.
Yep. And that money probably allowed him to do what he did in terms of censoring and propaganda that they used in social media. We
spent $280 billion subsidizing big tech. And you add it all up, and that's almost $4.5 trillion. And that's how we got $36 trillion in debt. And that's why Donald Trump said, I'm going to look at every single line item of spending. And that's why he gave the job to Elon Musk. And that's why Musk is auditing these accounts.
And you know what? With that type of debt, you really can throw a rock anywhere and find bad spending. So it's not like he has to go after much bigger fish than the fish he's going after, in terms of uncovering where things are going, because this is just, in my opinion, this is just light work. You can throw a rock and find some corruption.
But nobody wants to talk about what he's finding. Nobody wants to talk about the spending porn, except the American people.
Because they're complicit.
They get it, Mr. President. They get it. And I hope Mr. Musk continues. My colleague and friend, we had a little discussion in banking today. Senator Warner makes a good point. He wants Mr. Musk to come over and talk to Congress about how he's doing this. I'm all for that. I am all for that. I would love to have him come over and walk us through what he's doing and how he's discovering all this spending porn. We need all the help we can get on reducing our spending, because we can't continue at this pace.
Well, a word I haven't heard him say is accountability. You know, who are we holding accountable for this? Yeah, we're talking about the money, but nobody's mentioning, you know, who's accountable, who's going to pay for this. Nobody's talking about that.
I just wanted to spend a few minutes putting all this in perspective, Mr. President. The world's not going to spin off its axis, folks. Every business that I know of goes through an audit. Now we're being audited, but we're being audited by not by the usual auditors, but we're being audited by a person appointed by the President of the United States. And I'm betting you when he's through, and he's going to go to all these agencies. He's starting on the Department of Education next. I think he'll end up finding that some of our money is being well spent. But he's also going to find that some of our money is being stolen. And it's being wasted. And that's an insult to every taxpayer in this country.
Right.
So I'm going to end like I began. We ought to be giving Mr. Musk a medal. We ought to be thanking him. Maybe nobody else wants to hear about the spending porn, but I can't wait to read the book. I hope he finds all of it and compiles it. I hope Marco Rubio, our new Secretary of State, takes USAID and shakes them by the shoulder and lifts up the good people there and fires the bad people, the people that wasted taxpayer money like this, giving money to terrorist organizations.
Fire? All right.
People that wasted taxpayer money like this, giving money to terrorist organizations, giving money to organizations that support Hamas.
Fire?
Hope he gets rid of every single one of them. And I think if we listen to Mr. Musk, we can save a lot of money. And I hope he does come over and explain what he's doing. I want to talk about one other subject real quickly. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to repeat it.
I love this guy just comes out and he is not playing the political game. He is speaking frankly, you know what I mean? And you don't see this. A lot of times you see Republicans, they speak in certain templates, you know, they have rehearsed answers for certain things. And he's not. You can see that he's genuinely upset about this, genuinely curious. And I like it because it takes people like this to stand up and say something versus everyone else just going along to get along.
This is India. This is China, which wants to run the whole world. China's already trying to take over the shipping lanes in the South China Sea. This is the Chagos Islands right down here. Years ago, the Chagos Islands were owned by France. France ceded the Chagos Islands to our friends in Great Britain, UK. And a number of years ago, the United Kingdom and America got together, and we built, mostly with American dollars, by the way, we built a military base in the Chagos Islands, on one particular island called Diego Garcia. And it's a really important military base. For one thing, it's very close to the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean in China, so we can watch them. For another thing, it's where it's one of the only bases where our nuclear submarines can dock. Hugely important. Well, the United Nations got mad at the United Kingdom. They said, Great Britain, you're bad people. You used to be colonialists. You acquired other countries, sometimes freely, sometimes by force. Every country I know of in the world of any strength has done that. Doesn't mean we ought to be proud of it, but It's part of our history.
Yeah.
But the United Nations said, shame on you, UK. Shame on you. Bad, 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 bad. You have to give back the Chagos Islands and the military base there. And the UN doesn't have any jurisdiction over the United Kingdom. But the UN said not only do you have to give it back, but you don't give it back to the people of the Chagos Islands. You give it back to another group of islands way down here called Mauritius. Mauritius used to own the Chagos Islands when France ceded them to Great Britain. They were run by Mauritius. But the people of the two island groups, archipelagos, the people don't have any affinity. Now, what's Mauritius say? Of course we'll take it. But they want to start charging the United States and the UK £9 billion for a 99-year lease. So we can lease our own military base. All because the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom feels guilty because somebody, some tofu-eating wokarati at the United Nations says they're bad people, bad colonialists. Well, and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, he's going along with it, but he says, I'm negotiating with Mauritius. And the people of the leader of Mauritius just issued a press release, said, yeah, he's negotiating. He's increased the price. And he's shortened the leash. Now, you know who's loving all of this? China.
Right.
Because China has a close relationship with Mauritius. And you know what? It's going to get a lot closer. This is insane. This is cell deep stupid. This is bone deep down to the marrow stupid. Because the United Nations wants the United Kingdom to feel guilty, they want to give our military base and their military base to Mauritius. Now, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom can stop this. And Marco Rubio, our new Secretary of State, is against it. And I haven't talked to him directly, but I think President Trump is against it. The United Kingdom is our friend. I went to school there for a while. I love them. And I want to see the Prime Minister do well. But he needs to put down the bong. He needs to put down the bong. This makes absolutely no sense. And it's going to be a big part of his legacy if he gives away this island and our military base to, in effect, what will eventually be China. So I would say to the Prime Minister tonight, I don't mean any disrespect. I want to say this respectfully. I shouldn't have said the bong part. I take it back.
Well, you're speaking your mind, but I love it because it's on your heart.
Please, Mr. Prime Minister, don't do this. Don't do this. We'll stand with you in telling the United Nations who's upset with you to go fill out a hurt feelings report because we're not doing it. We'll stand with you. Please say no. Don't give our military base away. It's going to really hurt the relationship between the United States of America and the United Kingdom. I know Donald Trump pretty well. I know Marco Rubio pretty well. They'll forgive, but they'll never, ever forget. Don't do it, Mr. Prime Minister. I've taken too much time. I'm sorry.
Man, what an informative video. All right. Now, for those of you who follow politics, if there was some information in here that you think is misinformation, educate me below. All right. As again, I'm never married to any specific thing, and I'm not taking everything he says as fact, but most of it made perfect sense to me. A lot of it was common sense and logical. Okay. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, got any value out of it, and want to see more, do me a big favor and like the video. Or if you just want to see the channel grow, I truly appreciate it. Subscribe and hit that notification bell. And I appreciate you guys for watching. Peace.